Imagine a bomb so powerful it could erase an entire city in seconds, not just destroy it, but completely wipe it off the map. Now imagine something over 3,000 times stronger than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. This wasn't science fiction. In 1961, the Soviet Union unleashed the most powerful weapon ever created, the Tsar Bomba, a single detonation that redefined the limits of destruction itself. At the height of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a race for nuclear dominance. For a short time, tensions seemed to ease, both sides agreeing to pause nuclear testing and even hinting at peace. But that didn't last. In 1960, an American spy plane was shot down deep inside Soviet territory. The United States denied it at first, but the truth quickly came out. Trust collapsed, negotiations failed, and tensions surged once again. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev wanted to send a message to the world. He believed the Soviet Union needed a display of overwhelming power, something so massive it would force everyone to pay attention. So he gathered his top scientists and gave them a simple but terrifying directive: build the biggest bomb ever. At the time, the most powerful nuclear weapon ever tested was around 15 megatons, but this new idea pushed far beyond that. The goal was 100 megatons, an almost unimaginable level of destruction. To put that into perspective, the total explosive power used in all of World War II was only a few megatons combined. This single weapon would dwarf all of it. Leading the project was physicist Andrei Sakharov, one of the key minds behind the Soviet hydrogen bomb. Unlike many others, he was deeply troubled by what they were creating. He calculated that even testing nuclear weapons could lead to thousands of deaths over time due to radiation exposure, spreading across the planet through the atmosphere. Still, under immense political pressure and an extremely tight deadline, his team pushed forward. They had just 16 weeks to design and build something the world had never seen before. There was barely time for proper calculations, so much of the work relied on approximations and instinct. Engineers were effectively designing and assembling the bomb at the same time, without fully knowing how it would behave. No one could accurately predict the full consequences of detonating something this powerful. As the test approached, global fear began to rise. The Soviet Union announced it was resuming nuclear testing. The world reacted with outrage, and the United States responded by restarting its own tests. What had briefly been a pause in the arms race quickly turned into escalation once again, with both sides preparing for even more destructive weapons. When the bomb was finally completed, it was enormous, about 8 meters long and weighing around 25 tons. It was so large that it required a specially modified aircraft just to carry it. Even then, it wasn't practical for actual warfare. It was too heavy, too slow, and far too easy to detect. This wasn't a battlefield weapon, it was a statement. Originally, Tsar Bomba was designed to reach the full 100 megatons, but at the last moment Sakharov made a critical change. By replacing certain materials, he managed to cut the yield in half to 50 megatons, significantly reducing the amount of radioactive fallout. Even at half power, it would still be the largest explosion ever created by humans. In October 1961, the bomb was loaded onto a specially modified aircraft and flown to a remote Arctic test site. The crew knew the risks. Their chances of survival were estimated at only 50%. To give them time to escape, the bomb was fitted with a massive parachute, slowing its descent and buying precious seconds. At 11:32 in the morning, the bomb was released from high altitude. As it fell, the crew turned and fled at full speed, hoping to outrun what was about to happen. For a brief moment, there was only light, an intense flash so bright it could cause blindness from dozens of kilometers away. Then came the heat. Temperatures at the center reached tens of millions of degrees hotter than the core of the sun, instantly igniting everything below. A massive fireball formed and began expanding at incredible speed, growing to several kilometers wide in seconds. Everything within range was vaporized. Rock, metal, and ice simply ceased to exist. The ground below was scorched and flattened beyond recognition. Then came the shockwave, the most powerful ever produced by human hands. It blasted outward in all directions, flattening structures and ripping through the landscape. The force was so immense that it traveled across the planet, circling the Earth multiple times. Above it all, a towering mushroom cloud rose into the sky, climbing higher and higher until it pierced the upper layers of the atmosphere. It reached heights far beyond Mount Everest, a visible reminder of just how much energy had been unleashed in a single moment. Even hundreds of kilometers away, buildings were damaged and windows shattered. The shockwave was strong enough to disrupt aircraft in midair, nearly knocking them out of the sky. And yet, despite all of this, the test did not directly kill anyone. But that doesn't mean it was harmless. Radiation from the explosion spread through the atmosphere, carried by winds across the globe. While Tsar Bomba was designed to be cleaner than most nuclear weapons, it still released radioactive particles that lingered for years. Over time, these particles contributed to increased health risks, environmental damage, and long-term consequences that were not immediately visible. The test shocked the world. It was widely condemned as reckless and unnecessary, a demonstration of power taken to a dangerous extreme. Even Sakharov, the man who helped create it, became one of the strongest critics of nuclear weapons, later dedicating his life to fighting against their use. In the years that followed, the sheer scale of Tsar Bomba played a role in changing global attitudes. Not long after, major powers agreed to limit nuclear testing in the atmosphere, recognizing that the risks were simply too great. Tsar Bomba was never used in war, and it never needed to be. Its purpose was psychological. It was meant to show that humanity had reached a point where it could create something so powerful, it could threaten entire civilizations in a single strike. And that's what makes it so unsettling. Because Tsar Bomba wasn't built out of necessity. It wasn't built for strategy. It was built to prove a point, to show that if pushed far enough, humanity could create destruction on a scale almost beyond comprehension. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back.